there's a peculiar restlessness that follows us through our days now, isn't there? A sense that our minds are always elsewhere, pulled in a dozen directions at once, never quite settling into the present moment. You feel it when you sit down to read a book and find yourself reaching for your phone after just a few paragraphs. You notice it in conversations when part of your attention drifts to the notification that just lit up your screen. It's there in the quiet moments too, when silence feels uncomfortable, almost foreign, and you instinctively fill it with noise, with stimulation, with anything but the simple act of being still. We live in an age of unprecedented distraction, where the very devices designed to connect us have somehow left us more scattered than ever before. The average person checks their phone over 150 times a day, each glance a small fracture in the continuity of thought, each notification a tiny earthquake in the landscape of consciousness. We've become accustomed to living in a state of perpetual interruption, where deep focus feels like a luxury we can no longer afford. But what would the ancient philosophers make of this modern predicament? What would Marcus Aurelius think as he watched us scroll endlessly through feeds of curated lives, our attention bouncing from one piece of content to the next, like a pinball in an endless machine? What would Seneca say about our relationship with time, as we lose hours to the hypnotic pull of digital entertainment, while claiming we have no time for reflection, for genuine connection, for the cultivation of wisdom? The Stoics understood something profound about the nature of attention and the human mind. They recognized that where we place our focus determines not just what we accomplish, but who we become. Marcus Aurelius, writing in his personal journal that would later become the Meditations, reminded himself, confine yourself to the present. This wasn't merely practical advice about time management. It was a recognition that the present moment is the only place where life actually happens, where genuine experience unfolds, where we have any real power to shape our existence. Consider the emperor's words more deeply. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. In our current age, this wisdom feels almost revolutionary. We've become convinced that we must respond to every ping, every alert, every digital demand for our attention. We've accepted the illusion that being constantly available, constantly stimulated, constantly consuming information makes us more productive, more connected, more alive. But the Stoics would see through this deception immediately. Epictetus, who knew something about the difference between freedom and slavery, taught that we are enslaved by whatever we cannot do without. How many of us could go a single day without checking our phones? How many could sit in silence for an hour without feeling the compulsive need to fill that space with entertainment or information? The very thought makes us uncomfortable, doesn't it? This discomfort reveals the depth of our dependence, the extent to which we've surrendered our inner freedom to external stimuli. The ancient philosophers understood that attention is not just a cognitive resource, it's the very foundation of a meaningful life. When Seneca wrote about the shortness of life, he wasn't primarily concerned with the number of years we're given. He was pointing to how we squander the time we have by living unconsciously, by allowing our minds to be pulled in every direction except toward what truly matters. It is not that we have a short time to live, he observed, but that we waste a lot of it. In our digital age, this waste has become systematic, industrialized. There are entire industries built around capturing and monetizing human attention. Teams of neuroscientists and behavioral economists work tirelessly to make apps more addictive, to keep us scrolling just a little longer, to ensure that we never quite feel satisfied enough to put our devices down and engage fully with the world around us. We've created a civilization that profits from our distraction, that grows stronger as our capacity for sustained attention grows weaker. But the Stoics would remind us that this external manipulation only has power over us if we allow it. Marcus Aurelius faced his own version of constant demands, the endless responsibilities of ruling an empire, the pressure of military campaigns, the weight of decisions that affected millions of lives. Yet he found ways to cultivate inner stillness, to return again and again to what he called the citadel of the self. He understood that external circumstances, no matter how chaotic or demanding, cannot disturb our inner peace unless we give them permission to do so. This doesn't mean the Stoics advocated for withdrawal from the world or rejection of technology and progress. Seneca was a wealthy businessman and political advisor. Marcus Aurelius was arguably the most powerful man in the ancient world. Epictetus engaged actively with his students and the broader philosophical community. They weren't hermits or ascetics. They were people who learned to engage fully with their responsibilities while maintaining sovereignty over their inner lives. The key insight they offer us is the distinction between what they called externals and what lies within our control. Our phones buzzing, emails arriving, social media feeds updating. These are externals. They happen in the world around us, but they have no inherent power to disturb our peace or fragment our attention. The disturbance comes from our response, from our habitual patterns of reactivity that we've developed over years of conditioning. When we understand this distinction deeply, we begin to see that reclaiming our attention isn't primarily about changing our external circumstances, though that may be part of it. It's about changing our relationship to those circumstances. It's about developing what the Stoics called prosos, a kind of continuous attention to the present moment and to our own mental states. This ancient practice feels remarkably relevant to our current struggles with focus and presence. Prosos involves a gentle but persistent awareness of where our minds are going, what we're paying attention to, and whether that attention is serving our deeper values and aspirations. It's the practice of catching ourselves when we're about to reach reflexively for our phones and asking, what am I seeking here? What am I trying to avoid? Is this the best use of this moment? The Stoics also understood something crucial about the relationship between external noise and inner chaos. Seneca wrote extensively about the importance of solitude and silence, not as an escape from life, but as a way of preparing for more meaningful engagement with it. All cruelty springs from weakness, he observed, and much of our compulsive consumption of digital stimulation comes from a kind of weakness, an inability to be alone with ourselves, to face the silence where our deeper thoughts and feelings reside. In our hyper-connected world, we've lost touch with the profound nourishment that comes from solitude. We've forgotten that boredom isn't a problem to be solved, but a doorway to creativity and self-discovery. We've become afraid of the quiet spaces where wisdom traditionally emerges, where we might encounter thoughts and feelings that require our attention and care. Marcus Aurelius spent considerable time in what he called the discipline of desire, learning to want what happens rather than demanding that what happens conform to our preferences. Applied to our relationship with technology and attention, this discipline might involve accepting that the urge to check our phones will arise, that the pull toward distraction is natural, but that we don't have to act on every impulse that emerges in consciousness. There's a profound freedom in this recognition. We don't have to be perfect. We don't have to eliminate all distractions or achieve some impossible state of constant focus. We simply need to develop the capacity to notice when our attention has wandered and gently guide it back to what we've chosen to focus on. This is the practice of attention as a form of self-respect, as a way of honoring the preciousness of our conscious experience. The Stoics would also remind us that true productivity isn't about doing more things faster or consuming more information more efficiently. It's about aligning our actions with our deepest values and engaging fully with whatever we've chosen to do. When we're constantly multitasking, constantly divided, we may appear busy, but we're not truly present for any of the activities that fill our days. We're living on the surface of our own lives. Epictetus taught his students to ask themselves regularly, is this something that's up to me or not? This simple question cuts through so much of the mental noise that characterizes modern life. The content of our social media feeds, not up to us. The number of emails in our inbox, not up to us. The quality of our attention in this moment, the depth of our presence with the people we love, the care we bring to our work, these are up to us. When we truly internalize this distinction, we begin to see that most of our mental energy goes toward things that aren't actually within our control. We worry about how others perceive us online. We get agitated by news events we can't influence. We lose sleep over possibilities that may never materialize. Meanwhile, the things that are genuinely within our power, our responses, our choices, our moment-to-moment quality of attention, often receive only a fraction of our conscious care. The path back to sustained focus and genuine presence isn't complicated, but it requires what the Stoics called ascesis, spiritual exercise, the daily practice of returning to what matters most. It might begin with something as simple as eating a meal without looking at a screen, or having a conversation without checking our phones, or sitting quietly for a few minutes each morning before engaging with the digital world. These small acts of intentionality create space for something deeper to emerge. They remind us that we have choices about where we place our attention, that we're not helpless victims of technological manipulation or cultural conditioning. They reconnect us with the profound satisfaction that comes from doing one thing at a time with complete presence and care. As we move through our days, we might remember Marcus Aurelius writing by candlelight in his tent during military campaigns, taking time each evening to reflect on the day's events and return to his core principles. We might think of Seneca, despite his wealth and political responsibilities, regularly retreating into philosophical contemplation and correspondence with friends about the deepest questions of human existence. We might recall Epictetus, who, despite being born into slavery, discovered a freedom that no external circumstance could touch. These weren't perfect people living in simpler times. They faced their own versions of distraction, their own struggles with attention and presence. But they understood something we're in danger of forgetting, that the quality of our attention determines the quality of our lives, that presence is a practice rather than a permanent achievement, and that the most radical act in a world of constant distraction might simply be the decision to be fully here, fully awake, fully engaged with whatever this moment offers. Your attention is your most precious resource. It's more valuable than money, more important than productivity, more fundamental than any external achievement. It's the lens through which you experience everything else, the foundation upon which meaning and connection and joy are built. In reclaiming it, you're not just improving your focus or reducing your stress, you're reclaiming your life itself, returning to the simple but profound freedom of being present for your own existence.